Good afternoon, everybody. We are live. I'm Annette Wittenberger, and in a minute, I will be bringing up my co-host, Joe Palacios. Thank you for tuning in to Veteran Lifestyle Magazine's official live stream / podcast, where we bring stories, struggles, and successes of veterans to life. This show is an extension of our magazine's mission to bridge the gap between military and civilian life, provide real resources, and celebrate the resilience of those who have served. In each episode, we dive into raw, unfiltered conversations with veterans, military spouses, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders who are making an impact. We'll cover mental health, career transitions, entrepreneurship, advocacy, and the real-life challenges of life after service, all with the goal of informing, inspiring, and empowering our community. This is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Whether you're a veteran, a military spouse, or someone who supports the community, you belong here. So let's have the conversations that matter. Welcome to the Veteran Lifestyle Magazine podcast, where your story matters. And hello.
Always good to be here. Welcome everyone again. Just to reiterate what our host announced. Thank you for joining us today, Alan. It's great to have you. Good to be here. I'm looking forward to our chat today. So thank you for coming.
That's what I get for not fucking paying attention, dude. I'm like looking over here doing something else. I'm like, oh, we're back on the stream. Ah, shit.
Raw, unfiltered episodes. That's where we're at.
I thought that was pretty filtered, to be fair. What's up, guys? Good afternoon.
Hi. Thank you for being here on our live show.
Yeah, thanks for happening.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
So listen, we have his whole bio on LinkedIn and Facebook. You guys can go read that. But I'm going to have Alan introduce himself and tell us a little bit about who he is, where he came from, and what he does.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, for the record, ChatGPT made me sound way cooler than I probably really am. But I guess the really quick version is I'm Alan. I'm a Leo. I don't smoke. I like long walks on the beach, and good whiskey. But I was born in 1991, mostly raised by a single mom and grandma, which is probably why I have a fear of Latina women, just to be completely honest. I was born in California, but grew up in New England in the state of Connecticut for most of my life, which is kind of why I hate the snow and the cold. Went back to California, finished high school, and then ChatGPT made me sound like some patriot person. I joined the Army because of lack of options. It seemed cool. I didn't want to go to college. The idea of shooting and blowing shit up seemed like a fun idea at the time. So I joined the Army. Just so you know, it is very fun. Joined the Army, ended up going to Fort Drum, New York, which is the 10th Mountain Division, which was not on my list of places to go, because that just proves how much the government likes to fuck you. Did a tour in Afghanistan, came home, and after I got out in 2012, I really just bounced around a lot of different jobs. Ended up settling in the funeral and cemetery industry for, 5 or 6 years. It was interesting. It was fun. I learned a lot. Wasn't really what I wanted to do with my life. And this past year, I finally realized I enjoyed being a marketer. So digital marketing is what my company, Faction.io, that I launched last year with 2 partners, and that's what we do. Our core mission is to try to aid veteran business owners. Doesn't always work out. It is what it is, but that is usually who we aim to help as best we can, even if it's just giving them free consults and advice. Any help is better than none. And that's really who we are and what we do. And that's me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you. I did not know about the mortuary affairs part of it until just now, so I don't even have questions to ask you.
I mean, it's kind of so my job was, I was the guy that dug the holes and buried them for a long time. Uh, and as morbid as it sounds, after a while, you kind of just get used to it. So like where everyone else is, sitting there crying and hysteric, you're kind of at the point where you're like, can you guys leave so I can bury this and go do the next one? It sounds messed up, but you're just like, yeah, man, like, but it was an interesting job. I really enjoyed doing the business, working in that industry. It was interesting. But like I said, it was there was a ceiling to it with what I did, and I wasn't as, I guess, happy or fulfilled with it. And what kind of landed me in marketing is it allows me to really be my unfiltered self. Which, if anybody knows me, knows I probably belong in a psych ward, but whatever. And not only that, it allows me to, I feel I help people more with what I do, like I said. And at the core of someone who apparently hates the human population, helping people is something I love doing. Go figure, right? Who knew? So my business and what I do really allows me to do that. And so
Well,
here we are.
I think that's funny how you say that, but I think at our core, everybody wants to help, even when we don't like each other. The idea is, if I help them in a certain way, maybe they'll go do their own thing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, even in my industry, any help I provide, I do it knowing, even if it's one thing they take away and I give them 8 things, it helps them in some way, hopefully. Some people, it's validating their opinion of what they need to do, or just being told what they are doing is right. And sometimes it's just, oh, I wasn't doing that, now I need to, right? Like there's a form of help, or even if it's just listening, they just want to vent about the issues they're having, which I hate, but I do it. And I'm like, oh, that's great, man. Yeah, it's totally do it. But but you are right, Joe. I think at our core, most people, we want to help each other in some way.
Yeah. Now I was curious because this is I have this also kind of like this belief, and you kind of mentioned it earlier on about joining the army. And growing up, so did you? How long did you stay in Riverside before you left? Like, how long did you were just born in Riverside, California?
No, I was born there. I think the first time we moved, I was like 5. I don't think we were in Connecticut very long. My mom has all this documented in her mind. You know how women are; they remember everything. If I recall, we came back. I don't think we were back long, not even a year. And then I think around the age of 6 or so is when we moved back permanently till, like I said, high school. So I spent probably a vast majority of my younger years and middle school years in Connecticut. Really happy I did. I actually, I like to joke before the Army, I knew my way around the woods better than most people I knew. So that was my backyard and my playground. So a lot of good memories from there. And then, obviously high school, went back to California and stayed there.
When did the Army bug get you? Because I know, again, and it's just because I've really related to that idea about the military. The Army was like, to be honest, it was just kind of, it seemed like an opportunity to do something, right? To do something. So when did that first kind of appear? Did it happen in high school? Like, was there like a connection to the Army somehow that just
it's kind of like I'm trying to think of how to explain it. I was always the person that was like, I would never do that because I just thought it was dumb being yelled at, and I'm like, I get that at home. I don't need to do that for a living. But basically, my mom always told me go to college or join the military. Fast forward like a few years later, she could have got a job when you graduated. Like, oh, thanks, I told me that.
Yeah.
But as someone who was good in school but hated it because I just got bored very easily, I knew college wasn't going to be for me, even though I was planning for it. And then one day the recruiters came in and talked, and I was like, screw it, let's see what this is about. And took the ASVAB, and apparently had every job, I think mostly in the Army, open to me, and then picked infantry because it looked the most fun. And much to the dismay of my recruiter.
100% resonate with that entire recruiting story.
It was
anything you want. What would you like?
Oh, she was going through. She showed me, computers.
Let's see infantry.
I mean, she showed me everything from Intel to, like all the stuff that takes you out of combat, basically. And I was like, no, it looks boring. Nah, nah. And then, they go through, and she showed me infantry, and they're kicking indoors, shooting guns, blowing shit up. And I'm like, every movie I've ever seen has shown me that. I want that. And she stopped like mid scroll and goes, what? And I'm like, yeah, give me that one. Like the whole recruiting office was like, are you fucking, except for the one guy that was infantry, he was like, hell yeah. But everyone else was like, what are you doing? And I was like, that one.
Yeah.
Give me that one. And so she was like, are you sure? And I was like, hell yeah. So, and it's funny because, you would think all these years later, I'd look back like, what the hell was I doing? I should have picked. I'm actually probably more proud of picking infantry than any job I probably could have picked. I'm so happy I picked that job because it introduced me to some of my best friends that I still talk to, a vast majority of them that I've ever met, and it gave me great memories. So I wouldn't change that choice ever.
Well, and which is funny is that one of our sponsors and partners in the magazine, and kind of like just a really good friend. He's also a 10th Mountain. 10th
Yeah.
Mountain. So
it's one of the worst places to be stationed. That place sucks. it's like a beautiful country place, but when you get off in March, you're like, oh, it's spring. We got off the plane when we came home, and there was snow, and I was like, this is bullshit. You could have left me in the desert, And then for them, they're like, oh, hey, we're gonna get some snow tomorrow, and everyone else is like, oh, it's a few inches. No, you walk out and there's like 3 feet of snow, and you're like, this sucks. Oh, we got to go train in this. You're like, this is fuck me, man. So, but again, it was nice. I wouldn't change anything, but
I had the privilege of doing a little bit of cold weather mountain training in the Marine Corps at the Mountain Warfare Training Center, right in Bridgeport.
Oh,
and
okay.
I was like, you guys are a different breed, because they're like guys that want to be stationed there to do that, and I'm like,
no.
It's cool to learn, fun. I love learning to do the cross country skiing and the snowshoeing, but I'm not going to be here all the time and do it over and over.
Yeah, no, it's a different. It wasn't even on my list when I think you guys. I don't remember how long they've done this, but I know the military, when you're getting out of base, they're like, pick your 3 duties station that you want to go to or whatever. Yeah. Fort Drum was not even on my list. I put like the 101. I wanted to go to Campbell. I want to go to Hawaii because it's Hawaii. And then I picked Italy because who wouldn't want to go to Italy, right? And then they come back like, you're going to 10th Mountain. I'm like, so just fuck me, right? All right, cool. Thanks, man. All right, cool. All right, that's great.
Yeah, awesome. Sorry. I'm taking over.
No, I'm laughing because when I was a cadet, I did ROTC. So I was not the same, but I didn't have recruiters. They were just like, you get 6 choices, and as a female, you only get so many. But one of the things that was offered to me was, you can either go to airborne school or you can go to Italy. And I was like, I'll go to Italy. I can go to airborne later. I went to Italy for 4 days, and I was with an airborne unit, and they were like, oh, we're going to Grafenwehr now. Are you serious? So I spent the next 2 weeks in Grafenwehr. Like, this was not the plan. I was supposed to go stay in Italy and live my life.
So it's funny because speaking about how the plan, my plan originally wasn't just infantry. I was supposed to do the Army Ranger contract, but I don't know what I did in basic that I messed up my knee. So going to like jump school and all that was like, they were like, no, basically. So that's really how I ended up in 10th Mountain. So a part of me is always like, if I would change, I know I said I wouldn't, I would have like not hurt my knee and actually followed through with that. But like I said, it ended up working out for the best. I met some of my best friends going to 10th Mountain. So, as they say, life unfolds as it should, I guess.
No, absolutely. I just have one more. So, like, because you also mentioned that like, and you shared a little bit, right? Like the funeral thing, and you kind of jumped around after the military. But I was just curious, like, how much of that time in 10th Mountain and just the military in general uh, translate to kind of like you finding this idea that you wanted to do the media stuff, like how did that translate? Like, is there anything there that like you could share for guys that are getting out and then are jumping around and they're just not figuring it out? Like, was there something specific that you could share
Like,
that kind of got you like, I want to try this, and what brought you there?
I think part of it is always I became more self-aware that I am and maybe this translates to what I do. Hell if I know. I'm a creative person. So, and one thing about being in the military is they teach us, if we don't already know it, how to problem solve, or and how to think, and create plans, things like that. Not that I had never not done that, but obviously we're taught at a higher scale to do it in the military. So with what I do in marketing and media, it's I solve problems. Like I said, I get to help people and I get to be creative with how we solve those problems. So when you really become more aware of who you are and what you like to do, it becomes a little easier in finding what you want to do. One of the things that a mentor of mine taught me was find something that you're good at, something that you like, something you can make money off. And I think the fourth pillar is something that helps people. I could be, if he hears this, he'll be mad. That's not what it is, but whatever. And as you kind of fill those out and mix them together, they should land you with what you should be doing. And who knows, I could be fucking way off the mark and this could not be what I should be doing, but for now it is, and I enjoy it. So here we are.
Hey, so don't be surprised. Your buddy who shared that with you got it somewhere else, because I've heard it similar, and you were very on the mark. It's true. It's like people always talk about work-life balance, right? Like, how do we find the balance? And I think we always miss the mark, because we always think of balance as it's got to be equal everywhere, like a
Right.
specific way. But it is really just that. It's like
Mhm.
balancing the energies in certain areas, right? Like, and
Mhm.
you hit it right. Like, what do you like? What can make you money? And what gets you forward, or what moves you forward.
Yeah.
That's how I've heard it, some kind of way like that.
Yeah. It's
And the person that told me is probably going, he fucking butchered it. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
oh, no,
man.
I know for a fact I did. And when he hears this, he's gonna be like, it's a Japanese proverb. It's called like the ikigai. It's a book. It's something we work on.
Yeah.
And I know I butchered it. He's gonna hear this, and I'm gonna get a text message about you fucked it up. And I'm like, kiss my ass. But that's essentially what it comes down to, right? And what I like to tell service members is, look, we were trained for specific skills. Sometimes we don't realize what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes it takes you a minute to sit there and realize what you were actually trained to do outside of
Yeah.
your job. All right. Uh, so when you're able to take those skills, the skills you learned from your job, whatever, and you're able to sit down and, like I said, truly be aware with yourself and who you are and what you like and all these things, it really starts to narrow down what it is you want to do. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
I read a saying, and I shared it with a friend, some friend. When people get like in a certain spot in my network, I like do this thing called pebbling that I just read about, and I just constantly send, for irregardless reasons, things that I think are motivational, things that are inspiring, just funny that'll get you through the day, right? Like, it's like, and the reason I heard of pebbling is because somebody else does that to me. I feel like there is this new form of therapy of us sharing really cool, inspiring things, and it's so silent. But on the broad media, like when you open up like Facebook or Instagram and you see like in the open, it's like a lot of like crazy in your face. But I think there's this like counterculture that in the DMs and in the messengers, it's all the positive stuff that you don't see. But I don't know where I was going with that. But
I
you
don't
got
either.
creative space. Um, I think what I was trying to get at is that in the end, it's like, I think exactly what you had said earlier was about kind of like helping other people find that spot. So but my neurodivergency kind of got to me because look, I recognize that the military is set up to make guys like us very successful, and then when we transition, it really is us figuring out like what was that, like how was I really good at certain things, and then you just keep going. It's the fail forward thing.
No, that's
exactly what you touched on. So thank you for that.
The main point is what you have to think of in the military is we're given a purpose, right? A mission. And when we get out, we lose the purpose and the mission. So it's now finding our own purpose and mission that I think we struggle with as veterans. So kind of to your point in terms of helping is you will get a lot more helping others than helping yourself, because by helping others, you usually will help yourself. You don't know, like another saying my mentor tells me is fail fast, which also goes with fail forward, because if you fail now, you learn where you messed up and you can fix it and drive on, right? Which is kind of what the military teaches us. You fuck up, you learn from it, and you drive on, right? We don't linger on it. So to that point, I think the struggle when you get out is what's my purpose, what's my mission, because I just lost it. Who am I? I'm no longer, and I know, the cult always says you're always a Marine. Well, you're not, because you're not in anymore, right? So that mission's out, right? That purpose is gone. You have to redefine it. And it's, some people maybe figure it out in a year. Some people get out and already know it. It took me almost 10 years. Like I said, I started the business last year. It took me a while. And lots of alcohol, but we don't got to get into that. So there's no timetable on this. You just got to be willing to, like I said, fail fast, fail forward, and learn.
It's very, very thought-provoking and very inspiring.
But I think I've ever been told that.
Well, because it's real. This is real shit. Real shit that not a lot of people talk about, and you're just being real about it, and with no holds barred. And that's what people need to hear. This is these are the stories that need to be told, and so
I mean,
unfiltered.
If there's one thing I do, I guess, pride myself in, is I'm very honest and up forward and blunt, much to probably the dismay of some people, but whatever. I think another thing we have to learn as veterans is, and not just veterans, fucking everybody, not everyone's going to like you. True. You're not the hero in everybody's story. Sometimes they're not even the hero in your own damn story because you're in your own way. I've made peace with that, clearly. That's why I have like 3 people that like me, I think. Debatable. But at the end of the day, like you said, you've got to, and I think veterans were a little bit more easier with this. It's what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because we're used to being told what we need to hear every day of our lives. So, and that's just something that I do. I'll always tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, because that doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. Yeah. So
it's hard to come across people who will do that for you, and then still be friends. Because I've been, Joe's done it, Ryan's done it. They've just like straight up was like, hey. And although I'm like, I don't want to hear that, it's good to have that, because you can't always have people that are like, oh, you're so great, you're never making mistakes. It's not gonna work. But
I mean, to your point, it doesn't help anybody, and it's like lying to someone about how great they're doing when they can't pay their bills you're just being an asshole, right? Like, sit them down, have the tough conversation, tell them, hey, you're a dumbass. This is why it's failing. Like, this is what you should be doing. And like you said, if you can't
the idea behind that, right, is like they mistake the kindness. Kindness doesn't always necessarily making somebody feel good, or it's being kind to them in a way that moves them forward. So sometimes you exactly that. Like, you got to go, look. Here's what's really happening.
Well, to Annette's point, she's like, it's hard to do that and still be friends. If I can't tell you that, then we're not friends. That's just how I look at it with life.
That's true.
If I can't sit there and stare at you and tell you, Joe, you're fucking up and this is why and this is how you fix it, and you look at me and you're like, well, fuck you, I don't want to talk to you anymore, then cool, go fail, leave me alone, I'm going to be over here. Right? Like, that's just cool, dude, later. Like, that's just how I define who, I guess, my tribe, my people, all the things we like to say. Like, if I can't sit there and be me and tell you these things, or we talk about these things without you being offended and hurt and got to go cry in a corner and not talk to me or whatever, then it is what it is. They're clearly, we don't need to be friends or associated, and I'll be over here and you go cry over there, and good luck. Like,
That's so mean. No, but you're right.
I think, CNN, I think you're confusing. Like, I think you have hard conversations. There's ways to do that without being an a-hole. And also, like, I was actually sitting with another Marine literally just 2 days ago, and we were just talking about the misconception about how every Marine leader was get in your face and scream and shake you, and if you don't listen, they're going to take you out back and beat you. That's ridiculous because it doesn't work for everybody. And what we start to learn is how to communicate effectively with the people that are in our circles and how they communicate with us. Like, I think that is a huge kind of step forward. So yeah, that's exactly right. It's and sometimes that's a hard conversation.
No, it is. And honestly, to that point, I don't say the easiest way, but the best way I had to learn that was coaching football. Because I coached football pretty much once I got out of the military. Because my mother, my brother was playing football, and she's like, "Go coach." I was like, "I played football. Doesn't mean I fucking know how to coach it. Like, what the hell?" Actually ended up being really good for me. It actually was probably one of the reasons why I, if I'm being honest, wasn't one of the sad 22 a day things, because it gave me another purpose.
Yeah.
But I did that for about 10 or 12 years, coaching various levels, and you interact with different kids from different lives. They handle some I could yell at and call them dipshits like they do in the military, like, and they responded. Others I had to kind of like I had to learn, put my arm around them, talk to them, explain it, and be nice, which is horseshit, but whatever. But to your point, there is a way to communicate it without it coming off as brash, yes, but at the same time, it is a hard conversation that, if you care, it has to be had. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that the easiest way for me to learn that was coaching football.
Yeah.
Hey, because I'm also I'm sharing this on LinkedIn to the crowd, and we get so many like entrepreneurs and me especially, like I tend to really connect and have like this kind of real close connection with really new businesses, like guys that are just starting up, right? And I also have a huge network of people that have been doing it for a long time in a bunch of different areas, and there is kind of the same feeling or understanding or not understanding of the digital media space of what you guys do, like the marketing stuff,
right?
And because we are on transparency, we are kind of like building it. Just out of curiosity, what are some of the things that these entrepreneurs and business guys who hopefully are watching, and I know they're watching because what are some things that they could look out for, like some kind of like key buzzwords maybe that they should be like and then what are things that they can kind of really kind of lean into? Because I know and it's kind of weird, I have this perception, this idea that how come you can't have more guaranteed metrics? And that's because I am out of the industry, and I know several people have explained, well, we can't guarantee this, but this is what we can do. But also, like, in other words, what are like just a few quick pointers that you could kind of say, hey, when you're talking to somebody in this space, these are the buzzwords that kind of raise a flag, or these are the buzzwords or things you want to listen for, or these are the questions you can ask.
To make it simple, one of the questions I ask, or I would stress, is what's your communication look like? That's probably your biggest one. Because for us, our ads guy, Shane, he'll bug you every day about the ads if he has to update you, right? I'm not going to say it's perfect communication, but we do the best we can at our communication to make sure the client is updated. But it's a two-way street. If I'm hounding you for 2 weeks about something that we need and you're not giving it and you're mad because it's not going, I'm like, I did it for 2 weeks. I've been trying to get an answer, right? So if you want them to be communicative, you've got to be communicative too. I'd say that's probably the biggest one. Make sure that their communication is good. Do they update you weekly? Do they update you monthly? And then I would ask about track record. Give me some examples. Have you done work in this business? Do you have familiarity? Um, as far as sometimes when we show some of our metrics that we can provide, we make sure we demonstrate that we give them proof, like this is what the numbers say, right? So on and so forth. I know pricing in our industry can vary. You have the people that they just want to give you everything and everything for like $500. That doesn't always mean it's good. It sounds great because it's cheap, but again, they're probably horrible at communication, or they're just going to half-ass it, and it's going to be an issue. And then you're going to come to a guy like me who charges you more, but I have to charge you more now because I got to fix everything, right? So due diligence is probably your biggest thing. There's lots of ways to figure that out. I personally am not a fan of if people are coming to you and they're telling you, hey, we guarantee this in like 10 days, they're probably full of shit. Our realistic expectation is we usually frame it as we will get you results in this time, but we have to do this and this. And then we give you a plan. If they're just telling you this and there's no plan behind it and they're just like, oh, we're just going to run ads and you'll get, 800 clients, it's probably just going to be 800 random bullshit people. It's not going to be what you want. One of the things we do at least I try to, is make sure that every entrepreneur business owner has their ideal client in mind, because that helps us do our job at targeting the right people and getting you in front of the right people. If that's not something that they're stressing about or hammering into you, then they're just going to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks and wish you the best, right? They're doing a bad job, in my opinion. So yeah, in terms of that, I would say those are the three things. Or I don't know, I stopped counting. There's a lot more in terms of marketing that you could look out for. But I would say the biggest thing is due diligence. Don't just because someone throws a small price and promises you a lot, don't believe it. Look into it. Go like a doctor, get a second opinion if you want. Like, hey man, this is what this guy's charging me for all this. What would you charge? And I'd be like, that's not $400 worth of work, dude. Like that's, So, I would say due diligence is your biggest advice I could give you in the marketing industry. I know it's kind of broad, but there's lots of layers to it.
I wanted to ask a question real quick as we are slowly getting to the end of our show. I want you to talk about, you also have a podcast called Rise to Run.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I wanted to ask you, what has been one or two of the most impactful stories or lessons that you have shared on the show?
So the point of the podcast, similar to this, is not just sharing. Obviously, I aim, just like the business, to have a lot of veterans, similar to you guys, but I also have non-veterans because everyone has a story. I've had guests that have overcome life-death experiences, overcome addiction, and have built businesses. Obviously, I have vets that we've all gone through our own shit. Excuse me. So that's really been the point. And I don't want to single out any one interview because I think all of them have carried their own weight, their own impact, their own messaging. They've all been really great to have. More to come because we've had quite a few since our launch. But the common thing has really just been perseverance. I'd say that's been the common thread of really how success happens, right? Kind of going back to marketing, it's a patience game. It's an investment, and when you're doing these journeys, overcoming addiction, getting out, finding all these things, it's a perseverance thing, right? It's a push through, keep going. even when you want to just say, fuck it, I want to disappear to the mountains. And that's more so the overlying theme you'll hear on Rise to Run with with pretty much all the interviews, is whether it was childhood, adult life, whatever the case was, of things happen, things that would make most people want to quit, give up, business failed, but I had to start again, all these things from people. And a lot of them are just now in a space where it was like, yeah, I could have gave up, thrown in the towel. Some have even talked about how they thought about ending it all those things. But here they are talking to me about, where they are now and how they got there, all these things. So for really sum it all up, perseverance has probably been the biggest message that you'll get out of that podcast.
It's so great to be able to hear someone else do that. Before we did this podcast, I had a podcast that I started in 2019 called The Truths We Hide.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, like you, I had veterans and non-veterans, but to hear people speak about the things that they went through and how they are still here because they want to help other people, it just makes you go, man, that is like, it reminds you that we're all still here for a reason, that we still have purpose, even through the darkest of times. I mean, the shit storms that we have been through in our lives. But then you hear somebody, and I don't want to single out things either, but there's one that will always be in my mind when I talk about that podcast, is someone who was trafficked, human trafficking, and she survived that. And how she survived it, and then what she's doing now, just makes you just, God, like, it's incredible. It's incredible stories, and it's just, and that's why we do what we do now, right? It's just to bring stories to life and to remind us that our story isn't over yet, and then there's still purpose and all these things.
No, I mean, to that, like, kind of I frame it in the fact is that you never know who your story is going to help, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers on people that are trafficked, that survive it, that are out there living. I hope it's a high number, but you never know who's maybe, been a victim of something similar to that. That's like, I just fuck life. But they hear that and they're like, oh, well, she did it, or, hey, right now I just got off drugs. So how am I going to make this guy did it. Like, it can be done. And kind of in another way, it kind of will, maybe you listen and you're like, oh shit, I'm really not that bad right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my life ain't that bad. I can push through this, right? What I'm going through ain't as bad as this person or what they've gone through. I can soldier on here, right? So that's really, to your point, Annette, that's really what the message is. Like, shit could be worse, or if it is bad, you can overcome it. It can be, like, here's an example. It can be done. Like, quit bitching. It can be done. Right, dudes? Hopefully that's the message you get when you listen to our podcast.
I think it's the idea of and it's like a folly we all fall for, right? It's focusing on the outcomes of our purpose instead of just focusing on the purpose, right? There's this he's like one of those guys in like a metaphysics area, like manifestation, and they asked him the question of like, or happiness. And he says, well, I can tell you that sadness comes from the me. And if you think about it, like, all the times we ruminate about ourselves, it is when we come up with all of the, like, oh man, what can I, but when we are constantly focused on the outward, right? Like the gratitudes of what we have, or the outwardly helping of others, there's where all the joy is. And to the point of like talking about and sharing, it's not so much, I think, the specific details of the hardship you have, but that you can overcome almost any hardship, right? I think people resonate to the resilience, not necessarily to the specific tragedies, because I think sometimes a lot of people can feel like they still have that bitterness because they have a suffering that they haven't kind of like realized, like, well, we all suffer. It's just, how do I overcome this? And when we still have that suffering and it hasn't kind of become the resilience, we're so focused on like, why is that guy getting better? They don't have, and we focus that inward, like oh, I'm still hurting, and it's just a thing. But when we can help others, I think it does help us so tremendously. So that's it. Yeah, absolutely.
No, yeah.
I agree with all that, and I think another reminder is just like you had said, Ellen. It took you 10 years. It took me 8. I've been retired 8 years, but people put timelines like you should be better by now. You should be good by now. You should be when we need to realize that there's no timeline. Like we need
No.
to take the time that we need. 8 years later, and I have finally found that peace to realize this is where I'm supposed to be. These are the people.
Mhm.
Maybe it's because I'm almost 50 and I'm like my give a shit factor just like went out the door. Or I'm just like I'm realizing that okay, this is it. These people, Joe's supposed to be here, Ryan, you like this is where we're supposed to be, and it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay if it took 8 years or 10 years or 15 years because our story is evolving. We evolve professionally, personally, and people need to realize that and stop saying you should be because it's not. It's just that's just not how it works. So a little bit of
I
grace,
mean,
be okay.
Well, real quick, Alan, I want to share something with you. So, like, I
okay.
literally wanted to like figure out. I wanted to have your today's show go well, right? So, I thought to myself, man, I always end up talking about like community and helping people and working together. And I'm like, you know what? I want to offer Alan a real opportunity to share some of the stuff that he does, like in business, because business people watch this, they follow us. We have a huge network, and I
Right.
want to do that. And I just want to say that I love that we still dived into this more lead about helping people. And I think that is again comes back to like out in the open. I think the crazy and the fearful stuff is loud. But what
Right.
we are talking about, and like I said earlier, right, the DMs and probably all the interactions with like your close networks, and it's always like positive. And that's why, so thank you for coming on and sharing this. Cause I seriously, like, I was like, I want to ask more questions to kind of get, and then we
Yeah.
go so dive into this. So I appreciate that so much. Really, I'm so grateful for this because like Annette says, we're here doing what we're supposed to be doing at the time we're supposed to be doing it. So.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of like go over all that, the main thing people got to remember is comparison is the thief of joy. Right. So, like Annette said, I'm supposed to be, I'm blah, 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 blah. There's no timeline on you fixing yourself. It's an ongoing thing. All right. I'm still fixing myself. We all are. We always are going to be. We're never going to be perfect. Take that word and throw it in the trash because it's never going to happen. Right. If we were perfect human beings, then, the world would be better. We're not. Your business will never be perfect. Your life will never be perfect. Your marriage, none of that's ever going to be perfect. It's always going to be worked on. So there is no timeline on that. In a sense that it shouldn't be a year after I got out. It's however long it takes you to put an effort into doing it. And I had to learn this. And like I said, just don't compare yourself to everybody. Where I am today may not be, who my mentor is right now, but that's maybe what I strive to be. I just have to make the effort to do it. So that kind of, don't compare. Your journey's different. Everyone's journey's different. We're all taking the long walk through this fuck show called life together. We're all just going to get at the final destination at some point at a different time.
I think it's funny. I think that the life is like this huge map, and everybody has like these routes that they go, oh man, there's a good route, here's a good. There are all these routes, but then in the end, you still have to kind of like take your machete out and kind of chop a little part of it.
That's
You
a
have lessons learned to avoid on their routes, but in the end, I think it's really your journey to go through. So
it is because what works for Joe probably doesn't work for Alan. What works for Alan doesn't work for Annette, right? What works for me and my business won't work for you and yours. Like there's not one size.
But sometimes, Alan, something that didn't work for you probably is not going to work for me either. This, you know what I mean? Like, so
No,
it's
yeah.
just really, yeah.
Absolutely.
You're right. Well, I'm really sad that we have to close this out because I think we could just talk forever. And I was going to ask you, Alan, for some words of wisdom, but you just nailed it all on the head. So, I
Got
mean,
plenty of those. Plenty of those.
you just dropped some really great pieces of advice and wisdom and all that. Again, like Joe said, I appreciate you and my dog in the background for everything that you have said today and shared. And yeah, this is the end of the show, but we would love to just continue this. I want you guys to follow him on Instagram at factionmedia.io. Also, I will add this all in the show notes when it is uploaded to Spotify and YouTube and all that. But he's everywhere. Faction Media, Rise to Run podcast, and on LinkedIn at Ellen Davis. So thank you again. And this is the end. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a good one.
It was great having you, Alan. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.